Hello, my name is Lilian Okibe. Welcome to my channel. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about heavy locks while I wash my locks. So we'll be discussing why your locks are heavy, what are the signs to look out for to know if your locks are heavy, and what you can do to prevent and fix it. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, then please keep on watching. And before we go into that, let me show you guys this part that I had bald spots a few weeks ago. You guys can see like the bald spot has covered, like there's this hair has grown in place of the spots, and like the hair is like it has grown like this long now. Like I'm so impressed. Like it's, I feel like I can make another lock there right now, but I think I'm just going to wait for it to just continue to grow and see how I feel about like creating a lock there. But anyway, so now the first thing I do before I start any washing process is for me to wet my locks. So I'll go ahead and wet my locks, and then we're going to come back to start talking about heavy locks. Hair is not weightless, and I don't know how many of you guys use hair extensions. Like when you get your hair extensions, like it is not weightless, it has some weight to it. So obviously the more of the hair that you accumulate, the heavier it's going to get. I don't know if that makes sense. So it's not like, oh my goodness, like out of this world if your like locks start to get heavy, you know. But the truth of the matter is, before your locks get to that point where it's like heavy and like you can feel the weight, normally it should be very long. Like it should be at least longer than like down to your butt, right? So but there are different things that we do that can make our hair or our locks in this case be more prone to being heavy. So that's basically what we're going to be talking about in this video. So now let's start by talking about things that you should look out for to know if your locks are heavy. Like how do you know like when your locks are starting to get heavy? Now the first sign that you know, that you used to know that your locks are heavy is that you may start to experience like headaches, like random headaches for no reason, right? So you guys that are not new to my channel, you guys know that I always wash my locks with Dudu Oshun black soap. Like I use this so much that some people ask me if like I am an ambassador or like they sponsor my videos or anything like that. But no, like I've been using this for years, like since when I had loose natural hair. I think I've been using this consistently since 2017 or even earlier than 2017. So no, I'm not, this is not sponsored. Like I'm not sure they even know I exist, but I genuinely love this product and I've been using it to wash my hair for a very long time. So back to what we're saying, the first sign that would let you know that your locks are heavy is headache. You know, there are people who just like complain that they notice that they have like random headaches for no reason. Like sometimes it may not necessarily be that because you're stressed or because anything is happening. Like if you notice that you're constantly having headaches and maybe you take painkillers and it doesn't really work, or maybe it works a little, but you just notice that you're having headache and maybe you go to get checked and there's nothing medically wrong with you. That's one of the signs that you use to know that your locks are heavy. Like people who have heavy locks, they tend to experience like headaches from time to time. Now the next sign that can tell that your locks are heavy is neck pain. Like I feel like that's another part that is very common. Most people who have heavy locks, who experience like heavy locks, they usually have like neck pain and like mostly neck pain, headaches, neck pain. That's something that comes with the, you know, territory of like having heavy locks. Now another sign that you have heavy locks is that your roots may start to get like weak and it may probably break in the process. Like that's another sign of heavy locks. Heavy locks can cause breakage. Like you may notice that maybe you're not doing anything wrong, maybe you're not like retwisting tightly, you're not like retwisting often and all that, and you just notice that like nothing's happening, but it just seems like your roots are getting weak or probably even breaking off. That's another sign of heavy locks. Like when your locks get heavy, you may start to experience like thinning at the roots and like hair loss, or maybe like your locks popping even when you're not you're not necessarily wearing like tight styles and all that, right? Now another sign of heavy locks is that you may start to see the weight like of the locks. I don't know how to explain it. Like, you know, sometimes when you look at people's locks and it just seems like, but when you see the roots of the locks, it just looks like it has been through a lot. Like, it may not necessarily be like breaking off, or it may not necessarily be thinning or anything like that, but you can like obviously see that the lock has a kind of weight. Like, it's kind of like weighing the roots of the locks down. That's another sign that your locks have gotten heavy. So I'm going to go and rinse this out, then we'll go ahead and continue our discussion about heavy locks. So I'm done rinsing out the shampoo, and this is what my hair looks like. So now let's go ahead and talk about the reasons why your locks are heavy. Now, the first, and I feel like this is like the most important reason why many people experience heavy locks prematurely, and that is because of the products, the quantity, and to an extent the kind of products that they are using in their locks. The quantity of products that you can afford to use in your locks, the maximum quantity of products that you can afford to use in your locks, is highly dependent on the kind of products that you're using. So if you're using heavy products, like if you're someone that, for example, if you choose to use shea butter just like I do, you cannot afford to use more than a dime size if you're not going to, if you want your locks to remain build up free and light. Now let me go ahead and, speaking of products, let me go ahead and apply the products that I use for my scalp. This is my favorite product at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and apply the Okibe healing oil on my scalp. This is my favorite product at the moment. Those of you that watched my last video, you guys, I talked about this and I talked about like the story behind it. So if you're interested in knowing the story behind this, go ahead and I'll leave the link to the video up in the cards and the description, up in the cards. So in the past, I used to apply Jamaican black castor oil on my scalp, but since I had that issue with like bald spot on this side of my head, this was what I used to heal it. So I've just been using this since then. I think I've been using it for almost 2 months now, and the reason why I like this over Jamaican black castor oil is that it is super lightweight. Let me even show you guys. Let me show you guys, because you guys don't realize how light this is. Like, it is so light. You guys can see, like, it's already dripping. It is so light. It is almost as light as water. Let me go ahead and spray some water on my hand so that you guys can see like how light it is. Like, it is so easy for water to rinse it out. I don't know, I hope you get the camera is picking it up. Like, it is super lightweight, and that's one of the reasons why I like it. And also it helps to regrow like hair loss issues, bald spots, thin edges, you know, and all those things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this on my scalp. I don't use a lot. You don't need, like, if you're trying to prevent your locks from getting heavy, you need to master how not to be heavy-handed with your products. I know that so many of us, because from being a loose natural, we got so used to putting loads and loads of products in our hair, and that's one of the reasons why many people start to experience thinning locks prematurely. Let me go ahead and I'll show you guys how much products I apply. This oil is super lightweight, you guys, as you guys saw, but even at that, I still just apply a few drops, you know, I put on my hands, then I go ahead and from my hand, and I just go ahead and apply the oil first on my edges and then randomly all over. Like, if I feel like I need more, because obviously these few drops will not be enough because it's almost out, but I just apply little as I go. By the time I'm done applying, like, my hair is not going to be greasy at all. One of the reasons why it's not going to be greasy is because I don't use a lot. And another thing is, this is super lightweight. Like, before it gets to a point where you apply this oil and your hair is greasy, like, that means like you have applied so much, right? So after applying on my edges, I go ahead and just randomly just distribute like all over, so that as much as possible I can get it all over my scalp. On wash days, usually the time I apply the most of this oil, because obviously my hair has been stripped of like all the oils and everything like that, and so it needs it to be replenished, right? So after applying it all over, the leftover, I just go ahead and work it into my hands and just go ahead and massage my scalp. Like, this is one of my favorite parts of wash days because it is so relaxing. Now, how you massage, like I just feel like I should say this. When you want to massage your scalp to get the best results, use your fingertips. Make sure you put like there's direct contact between your fingertips, not your nails, your fingertips and your scalp, and then just apply a little bit of pressure and just like move in a circular motion. It's so relaxing. Like massaging your scalp is supposed to be a relaxing experience, so if it is painful, then you're not doing it correctly. Now, the next reason why your locks may be wet, why your locks may be heavy, is when you frequently wet your locks, when you wet your locks too much without drying properly. Just like I said, your locks are usually going to be heaviest when your locks when they are wet, right? So if your hair is always wet and you don't ever allow it to be dry and just remain dry. When I say dry, I don't mean that it's like crunchy and like thirsty and breaking, you know, but dry in the sense that there's no water on the surface of it, there's no water within the core of your locks. Like it's not wet, as you guys can see. It's not wet, it's not damp. That's what I mean by dry. So you have to, if your hair is always like wet or damp, and like you don't ever allow your hair to just be dry, you know. For people who wet their locks every day, as your locks get longer, it's going to get to a point where when you wet your hair, before the next day where you're going to wet it again, it's not going to be dry. So you're going to discover that your hair is going to be wet all the time. You don't want that, because if your locks are always wet, your locks are going to be heavy, right? And so if your locks are always heavy, like even though you may not have gotten to that length yet where you should be experiencing like heavy locks or anything like that, you may start to experience the symptoms of heavy locks that I mentioned earlier. So it's always a good idea that water is great for locks. Like I always say that in my videos, water is amazing, but you also want to make sure that you don't keep your locks wet all the time, because you don't want to overdo it, even though water is great. So make sure that whenever you wet your locks, make sure that it dries within 4 to 6 hours, right? And try to keep your hair dry for at least 12 hours before you go ahead and wet again. You don't want to keep your hair wet or your locks wet, in this case your locks wet all the time. The next reason why your locks may be heavy is if you're not washing properly. Just like I mentioned earlier, too much product buildup and the likes can make your locks become heavy. And one of the ways to get rid of buildup and to kind of like reduce the quantity of products that you have in your locks is for you to wash as often as you need to, and for you to wash properly whenever you wash. If you guys want to see like a detailed how I wash to, you know, prevent buildup and all the likes from my locks, I'll link, like I said, I'll link that video in the cards if you're interested. Apart from products that can accumulate in your locks and cause your locks to become heavy, even like your sweat, your dirt, your sebum that your scalp produces, lint and all dirt and all that dust and everything can also accumulate in your locks and make your locks heavy prematurely. So it's always a good idea for you to wash as often as you need to, depending on like how dusty your environment is and things like that, right? And make sure that whenever you wash properly. Now, after applying the oil on my scalp feels like airy. And that's one of the reasons why I like this oil. Like when you apply on your scalp automatically feels airy and it smells delicious. It smells like something that you would eat. So after doing that, next thing I do is apply shea butter. That so many people are against this shea butter of a thing, but I absolutely love shea butter. I've been using shea butter for my hair since maybe like 2012, even before I had like natural hair, when I still had relaxers. But then I didn't have like a routine, but anytime I remember, I was just like, when I feel like I need to put some cream, that's what I used to call it in my hair, I'll apply some shea butter. So I've been using shea butter for a very long time. Yeah, so I'm also using the Okibe African shea butter, as you guys can see, and I use just a little, right? Just a little. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys, like just a little. Now the good thing about this shea butter is that it is creamy, so it's not so difficult to apply. Those of you that have tried my shea butter, you guys know like it is soft and creamy, so it's like the best in the market. Not to, you know, not to brag or anything, but like my shea butter is actually the best in the market. Anyway, so this is like how much shea butter I apply all over my hair. Like look at how small it is. It's less than a dime size, you know. That's how small it is. And I go ahead and put in my hands and work it in. Like I said, whenever you're applying shea butter in your locks, when your locks are wet, make sure that your hands are dry when you're, you know, working the shea butter in your hands, so that it's, you know, distributes into like a clear, colorless oil, right? Work it in dry hands, and then you go ahead and distribute. I know that my locks are going to get bleached eventually from the sun, but I apply the shea butter to reduce how fast that happens, so that the color, it just maintains the color. Because I feel like for the sun to be bleaching your locks, that means it's actually damaging your locks. That's why I feel like it's not just, oh, it's bleaching, it's changing the color. In the process of bleaching, some damage may be happening to the strands of hair that are being bleached, and so I apply shea butter to protect my hair. So it's not necessarily that like I don't like the color, right? It's not necessarily about the color, but more about protecting the strands of my locks, you know, from the harmful rays of the sun. The next reason why your locks may be heavy is if you're compacting your locks too much. What do I mean? Any activity that you do that brings your locks closer. Like, for example, this is your lock. This is a lock. Now, anything I'll do that will make it like more compressed. That's what I mean by too much compacting of the locks. Things like palm rolling, things like banding. You know, people who have micro locks can get away with that, because micro locks, the concept of micro locks, you want your locks to be compact, and because they are so small, it's going to take a while before you start to feel the weight, because they are so small. So even when you compact and all that, you know, all that, it's kind of different, right? So things like palm rolling the locks, even like interlocking. People who maintain their locks with the interlocking method, they tend to experience, you know, the weight, like they tend to have the issue of, you know, heavy locks a lot sooner. Sometimes like wearing all these like tight caps and bonnets and scarves, those things that compress the locks can make the locks heavy. The next thing I'm going to do now is just allow my hair to dry. So I'm going to bring my fan close, put on the fan, and just let it dry my hair while I complete the rest of this video. If you're already experiencing heavy locks, if your locks are already heavy, what can you do to reduce the weight or kind of like fix it as much as possible? Now, the first thing you need to do is wear your locks down, because all things be like when your locks are worn down, you don't necessarily feel the weight as much as when you wear it up, like in a high ponytail or like a high pop or whatever. Like my locks now that are wet, now it's down, so even though like there's water in it, like I'm not feeling any weight, like it doesn't feel heavy at all, right? But if I go ahead and like wrap it up like in a ponytail, I'm going to feel the weight. Like there are times when if I need to wrap my hair up, maybe I just washed it, but I'm doing something that I don't want my locks to be like all over and like get dirty in the process, and I put my hair up. When it's wet, I obviously feel the weight of it when it's wet, but if it's worn down, I don't feel it. So if you're someone that your locks are already heavy, try as much as you can to wear your locks down. If you have a problem, like you don't like your locks on your face or maybe your neck, wherever, you can put it like in a loose, very loose, low ponytail, something like I had on when I started this video. You know, that can also help. Another thing that can help to reduce the weight of your locks, and this will also help you, like if you're someone that you're trying to prevent, this also helps, is for you to keep the root of your locks as thick as possible. So when I'm talking about thick roots to help to reduce the weight of your locks, I'm talking about leaving the hair at your roots alone in a way that it is shrunken, like not pulling too much, not wearing tight ponytails, not like braiding tightly and all that. Just make sure that the hair at the roots of your hair remains shrunken as much as you can, right? Because when your hair is shrunken at the roots kind of like serves as an afro that carries the weight of the locks, so that you don't have to feel it as much, as opposed to if your locks are pulled out at the root and like tightly retwisted. Even if they're not tightly retwisted, but if they are retwisted, you tend to feel the weight of the locks on your head, on your body, more than if you allow your roots to be shrunken. From time to time, wash your locks with warm water, because the thing about warm water is, if you're someone that, especially if you're someone that you use just oils and butter in your locks, washing with warm water helps to melt out the oils and butter from your hair, and it makes it easier for your soap, your shampoo to wash it out. And when you have less products in your locks are going to be lighter. So yeah, with that comes the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if this is your first time on my channel and you like to see more videos from me, then definitely subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys in my next video.